88.5 FM WVOF in Fairfield, Connecticut, The Upper Room with Joe Kelley. And our next guest, we wanted to have him on all these years. He is an award-winning website designer for the musical legends, including Prince, Pearl Jam, and he's a great guy. Very, very savvy, and he's been supportive of our show over the years. We welcome to The Upper Room with Joe Kelley, Mr. Sam Jennings. How you doing, Sam?
Pretty good, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing fine, and you've been through a lot. We know you've done a lot of interviews, and you were there with Prince on the internet, explosion for Prince and trend setting, and we mentioned award winning. But what's it been like in kind of a small nutshell since Prince's passing a couple months ago?
Yeah, it's been really interesting. I think a lot of people who worked with him are kind of saying the same things where, I personally have been sort of out of the Prince game for a while now. I stopped working for him at the end of 2007, so it wasn't really top of mind, like what he was doing or what he was about right now. But then when he passed, all of a sudden he's on everyone's mind and everyone's talking about him. And so it was kind of getting pulled back into that Prince world and reconnecting with tons of old friends and people I used to work with and just seeing all kinds of names pop up. It's been really interesting, really intense few months since he passed. An upside being that we're all connecting. An upside to the tragic thing. Of course, it's terrible he's passed, but it's been really nice connecting with this community again.
We first became in contact with you through Chicago when you were living in Chicago and hosting the Chicago Prince Nation, right?
Yeah, that's right. Uh-huh.
How big of? I think I've got a couple shirts still from those days. I never went out there, but you guys sent them along. And what was it like putting that together? And the fan base out there.
Yeah, well, Chicago's got a really, of course, it's got a really great fan base for Prince. But I was one of those people when I first got online in the mid '90s. My first instinct was like, I want to go find people who are into things I'm into, like a lot of people, and where are the other Prince fans? And I just started seeking them out online and saying, is anybody in town? Is anybody in Chicago? Because at that point, Prince was a little more underground. He wasn't as mainstream as he used to be. So kind of finding those diehard Prince fans is kind of challenging. Sometimes you meet somebody in a record store or something, but the internet really made that bridge available to us where we could find people and connect and do all that. So I started finding people in Chicago, and I said, well, we're all into the same thing. Why don't we start having parties? So we had parties where we'd get together at my loft on the west side, and we'd hang out and talk about music and concerts we went to and trade things. And then that led to actually doing it in a club for about 14 years. We hosted monthly Prince parties at the Berlin nightclub where people came around. It was really great because it was these people that you might not necessarily see any other time, but once a month we'd all come together and hang out together and have a good time around music. So it was really fun.
Now, when did Prince first take notice? Was it the parties or was it something else of your towns?
I would say it was definitely the parties, but also I was doing web design too because I studied that in college, and when I got out of college, I was doing web design. So having those skills and being an active member of the online community kind of had people reached out and said, hey, do you want to participate in some of his online projects? And at the time, the first one was the loveoneother.com project. So that was the first thing I got involved in towards the end of '98.
Now, what did that entail? A lot of different charity, fundraising, right?
Yeah, it was kind of interesting approach. Prince was doing things all independently, so he didn't have any record label behind him or anything like that, and he wanted to organize a site around his charity, and he wanted the fans to kind of come together and build it. And so I got involved with that group. It was about maybe a dozen of us or so, and so there were a lot of discussions about how the site should be and what it should be about, and what the kind of things we should talk about on the site. And I got more involved in sort of the design and the layout of the site, developing those things.
Now, with someone as big as Prince, and we've all heard tales of being demanding. How is it working for him? The paycheck. How nervous were you at the beginning?
Well, it's interesting because I kind of got a very gradual ease into the whole thing because it started with the love for the project, and most of our communication with Paisley was online. Mm-hmm. So there weren't phone conversations, there weren't any in-person things. It was really just kind of like doing chats and getting things organized that way. And so it wasn't until, quite a bit later that I actually started coming around Paisley, started actually spending time with him, working on other projects. So I would say it was a very gradual ease into the whole thing. It wasn't just like day one, here's Prince and he wants something done next week, like some people have.
Right.
So I got to kind of warm up to the whole thing. But then, once I was in, it was definitely pretty exciting. And yeah, he does set a very high bar as far as what he wants. So meeting those challenges was actually pretty fun.
My special guest right now is Sam Jennings, great website designer, artist. He paints as well, and very, very distinctive artwork, and it's really cool stuff. It is he's worked with Prince, Pearl Jam, and we're here talking about his connection with those artists. And Torrey Ruffin, guitarist with The Time, emailed me one time. The Time was up there doing something at Paisley Park, and he said, "Joe, they got the fastest computers up here." How hooked up was it for you, or were you always wanted something more?
Well, I was pretty lucky. I think people who came before me didn't have it so lucky, but because I was running an actual online business, which was the NPG Music Club,
right,
it was something that generated its own money. So, like, if the club needed something, we had the funds to pay for it. So if I needed a new computer, I could go get a new computer.
That's cool.
And of course, Prince had his own things going on too, his own computers. I don't know about other people, but yeah, I mean, having an actual business that made money definitely helped. Mm-hmm. Kind of, you didn't have to worry about too many of those details. But yeah, we were set up pretty good.
Now, you moved out to Minneapolis eventually?
Actually, I didn't. I stayed in Chicago.
Okay.
I stayed in Chicago the whole time. It's kind of funny. I tell people that with Prince, you kind of need that 500-mile buffer zone because he will work you to death, and he will call you at 4 a.m. and ask you to come out there. So, we kind of talked about it a few times, but it never really got to the point where he said I had to do it. So,
right.
I said, well, let me just stay in Chicago, and right. I'll come and see him when I need to, but I'm not available all the time.
Right. You probably made the right decision and lasted a whole lot longer doing that, right?
Yeah, exactly. I lasted about 9 years, and I think it was definitely because of that. I've heard stories from other people who were just a little too available, and it's like he gets tired of you or you get tired of him. One of those kind of things will happen.
Sam Jennings is with us. You can go to his website, samjennings.com. And before we go back and talk more about your great work with Prince and Pearl Jam, and you mentioned that moving out to Seattle, Washington, and what drew you out there? Well, I guess Pearl Jam, but what are you doing now?
Yeah, I came out here. I relocated here to work with Pearl Jam about 8 years ago, and then once I got here, I decided to take an opportunity with Microsoft, and now I'm designing in the office group for Microsoft. So a bit of a turn from the music days, but I kind of felt like I'd done the music thing for about 12 years. I was going to kind of stretch my experience, learn something different, learn a lot of different things about design, and I definitely learned that at Microsoft. Going from tiny groups of people to work with to really huge groups of people to work with, all those things has been a great learning experience. So, and Seattle's beautiful. It's, there's lots of trees and mountains and all those beautiful things. So it's very different from Chicago. I get a break from winter, which is nice.
And another company where you don't have to worry about keeping up to date on your computer, right? With all the revenue.
That's definitely true.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's go back to talking about your experience with Prince before we get to the NPG Music Club, the 1-800-NEW-FUNK website. What were the specifics with that?
Well, at the time, he, like I keep saying, he was very independent, so everything was very do-it-yourself. So the 1-800-NEW-FUNK site was it started with the phone line and the store, the actual physical stores in Minneapolis and London, and then at some point he just decided to take the whole operation online. And I think when you talked to Jackie Thompson, she kind of talked about some of that too, some of the things they were doing. So when I was working on it, it was just basically, this is going to be the place to go for everything Prince related. This is going to be your stop to get all CDs, all those T-shirts, basically anything we could think of. I think we put that Rave 2000 logo on just about anything we could get our hands on.
Right.
So that was the goal of it, to just create a completely independent situation for him to just release all the merchandise he wanted to.
And was he really into, he'd come up to you guys and say, I'm ready to drop this, or was it that fast as far as getting a product ready?
Yeah, I think that's one of the benefits of being so independent, is that the turnaround is really quick. So he liked that freedom in everything he did. He wanted to be able to, like with music especially, if he records something on Tuesday, he wanted to put it out on Thursday, that kind of thing. So when it came to the merchandise, it's the same kind of thing. Like, I got an idea for this, let's just quick knock something out and get it out there, and we could do that, no problem.
Yeah, definitely innovative. Work with Sam Jennings and Prince and Paisley Park and Jackie Thompson. It was a great time of creativity, and we're here talking with Sam about this. And let's move on to my favorite website, Prince, and you put together yourself, Sam Jennings, and NPG Music Club, which was just connecting all the fans and the tickets, the preferential purchase of the tickets. And what was the start of that like?
Yeah, after Love for One Another and MPG Online, I was working with him on these websites, and it kind of just come down to him and me at that point. And we were discussing ideas about how we could turn this into an online business brand, like as far as distributing his actual music. He didn't want to go through any other services. There weren't that many at the time, actually. This is like 2000, 2001. So this is still early days as far as music distribution goes. It's before iTunes, before iPod. But, he wanted a way, like, if I make the music, I just want to get it out to the people with as few things in the way as possible, like as few middlemen as possible. And he saw the internet as the way to do that. So, how can we turn this into like a setup that people will come back for, that they'll pay for? Napster was a big deal at the time, so there was that kind of concern, like we don't want people just to download things and then spit them out to Napster right away. Mm-hmm. So we talked about ideas like having subscription service. So to get the music, you actually have to subscribe, and that'll get you the files. But we have you as a subscriber, and so you're invested in the club. Mm-hmm. Those kind of ideas went into it, and there was a lot of trial and error and a lot of experimenting, and he liked changing it up kind of every year. I think he's just the kind of person that doesn't want to just keep things the same forever. So we kept trying different ideas in the club, and the ticket sales are definitely a big part of it too. Like,
oh yeah,
in just talking about having those discussions about what do the fans really want, and it's always like new music and the best concert tickets. Mm-hmm. So if we could deliver on those two things, then we got a winner. So and he was really open to that, and the pre-sale tickets. We did that for years and years, and then a couple tours we did the soundcheck access, which was really great. Mm-hmm. I think once Prince felt that he had a community of people, like people who had actually joined the club, he had this group of people who had committed to being a part of it, then it opened up a lot of possibilities. So like when he would have press conferences, we would invite music club members to it, right. Stuff like that. We just had this audience that we knew was our strongest supporters that we could tap to turn up for things, which was great.
You didn't give the press pass to Stuttering John with the Michael Jackson question, did you? That wasn't your fault, right?
Not me.
I'm just
not
kidding.
Me.
Yeah. Speaking of the pre-sale and everything, we had, I think, first row to Musicology, and we were so close. We were actually talking to Chance and in between songs when he came off the stage. But, so close. I think my wife couldn't see Renato Nato across the stage because we were too close. But it was just, amazing that you didn't have to sleep out for tickets like the Purple Rain days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, scalpers are obviously a big issue that he had a problem with. So, mm-hmm. That was our way to get around that too. And just that whole idea of having your biggest fans like right up front, like that's the best I would think for a performer. You have the most active and lively people like right up front waving their hands and joining in on everything. So I know he definitely appreciated that. That tour was definitely a special one.
Oh yeah, I mean it just had everything, and great band. And let me ask you about this. I know Prince has the vault out in Paisley Park, and Did he ever let on to you how upset he was about bootlegging and stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He definitely didn't hide his opinions about bootlegs for sure. I mean, he really felt strongly that he as the creator should get paid and should also have control over his music. And so, he was very concerned when things get leaked out. He was very concerned when people were distributing things around. I mean, there's the money side of it, but then there's also the side of, it's not ready to be listened to by the public, and people are listening to it, and I think that bothered him too. So yeah, it was always an issue. It was always a concern of his.
And now upon his passing, I mean, stuff's out there that I'm sure he definitely would definitely not like, but I guess that's the way it is. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think my feeling was always like the way to combat bootlegging is to put it out yourself. I mean, that was something that came out. That was something that came up with Pearl Jam. Mm-hmm. Like Pearl Jam, they're mostly a touring band at this point, and they put out official bootlegs of all their concerts. And obviously, there's not a big audience for that, but like there is some audience for that. The people that want it are, they have that available to them. And I always thought that would be great to do for Prince, but he just wasn't into it because I think he was such a perfectionist that he's like, well, that Des Moines, Iowa show wasn't as good as the New Orleans show, so we shouldn't put it out, that kind of thing.
Right.
But I think that, in my opinion, that was the best way to counter the bootleg, to just do it yourself.
Now we had many Prince bandmates on the show, and some have seen the vault. Did you ever get a close peek at the vault at Paisley Park?
Yeah, I never actually went inside the vault. I definitely was around it. I know where it is. I was around it. Walked past it a million times. I never had any reason to go in there, which is fine by me. It's one of those things, like if something ever came up missing, I'm not on that list. The people.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, John Blackwell said he saw Sheely's drum set from the Sign of the Times tour somewhere in there, but he didn't want to go in either.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff in Paisley. Not even just in the vault, but just there's boxes of things just kind of randomly all over the place. Like whoever's job it is to dig all that out, they're going to find a lot.
Right, and I've noticed from Prince.org and the various fan discussion. I mean, the passion for Prince is stronger than ever. I don't know how long it's going to sustain like that, but I mean, his legacy is definitely going to live on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like we've kind of been through this a little bit with Michael Jackson and with Elvis too. I mean, these are both major artists who died, whose estate continues to make money year after year. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it all gets settled. But it's definitely going to be a legitimate business for a long time.
Hey, speaking of new projects, we definitely got to talk about this. July 4th, correct me if I'm wrong, you have a big project yourself, which you are going to unleash, which a lot of people are excited about. Let's hear about it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's the Prince Online Museum. So I actually had this idea for a while now, but it seems like now, since he's passed, there's been more of an interest. But, I've been in touch with everyone who's worked on Prince's official website. I've worked on about 5 altogether myself. And so I just thought, it would be great if we put these back online, in some form. We're not going to charge anything. We're not going to have downloads or anything like that. But kind of like a time capsule of this period of time in Prince's online history. A way for people to just kind of click around and just play around with these sites that he used to have and just kind of recognize him as all the work that he did online. Because he was active online for almost 20 years. And a lot of people, I don't think they remember that. What I've been kind of fighting against a lot is this headline that people have stuck in their head that Prince hates the internet because of some of the statements he said, in the past several years. But there was a time when the guy was doing things that nobody else was doing, and he was breaking new ground. So, I want to kind of remind people of that, and also just give the fans check out these old things and jog some memories. I think it'll be really great. I think there aren't enough things like that out there right now for fans to kind of gather around and kind of share.
Do you have the website all set up? I mean, as far as an address?
Oh, yeah. It's going to be princeonlinemuseum.com.
Okay. And set to debut July 4th?
July 4th, yep.
Okay.
And it's July 4th because that is exactly 10 years since we closed the NPG Music Club.
a sad day for us here at the Upper Room, and a lot of people. And there's a big story about that. You know, I was reading you recently shared with a lot of people with, you know, I guess you can tell the story, but it happened around the time you received the Webby Award, right, in 2006?
Yeah. So exactly 10 years ago on June 12th, just last week, was the anniversary when we won the Webby Award. And so, you know, it was a really great night. It was a fun night. Like, we went to the ceremony. The NPG Music Club won a separate award, and Prince won a Lifetime Achievement Award. So there were two awards that night. Prince came for his thing briefly and did his little song, and I accepted the award for the music club, and I got up there and did a little speech. So it was a really cool night. It was like big validation of everything we've been doing, 5 years of work kind of paying off, being recognized by the industry. But then afterwards, you know, we're hanging out, and Prince is, as he is, he just likes to change things. His first thought is, well, we won this award. Maybe this is the best we're going to be able to do. Maybe this is the highest plateau. Maybe it's going to be all downhill from here. What if we close the club and do something else? And you know, I'm thinking, like I mentioned earlier, that's how I pay my bills. I don't think that's a great idea, but you know, and things are going well, so I'm like, oh, let's not break up something that's going well. But, you know, like I said, that's kind of Prince's style. It's like, why did he break up the revolution? Why did he stop recording one album and then do a different one? You know, it's like, he has his reasons, I guess, and he just decided, you know, like, maybe we'd done enough. So, you know, we didn't decide anything that night, but definitely discussions that happened in the following month definitely went in that direction. And, you know, Prince, he's a very charming guy. He has a way of kind of talking into things. And after lots of discussion, I kind of went along with it. I'm like, okay, we'll do something else. It'll be even better.
Right.
I'll go along with this. And we closed it on July 4th, 2006. So exactly 10 years later, I will relaunch a different version of it for everyone to check out.
Yeah, a lot of people are going to be happy, you know, bringing back those great memories and hopefully making some more memories with the great work. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. You know, at some point, Prince's estate's going to have to establish some kind of online music situation, and I hope they do something cool.
That's right. And you'll be at the ready, hopefully, right?
I'll be at the ready.
Yeah, that's right. from even Seattle, Washington, right?
Hey, you know, I'll go wherever.
Right. Sam Jennings is with us, and we're talking about all his experience with Prince and Pearl Jam. His website, samjennings.com. You can check out all his great work there, and also PrinceOnlineMuseum.com, July 4th. Now, I gotta say hello to my friend Larry Napolitano out there listening. Big Pearl Jam fan, and
all right.
So with Pearl Jam, how involved did Eddie Vedder and the band get involved in their say on what goes on the site?
Yeah, you know, it was a very different situation with Pearl Jam. They've got a really great staff here in Seattle. They have a warehouse, which is their headquarters, and they have a manager and a person that runs their fan club. So they've got a really tight group of people that have been with them for years and years. So with them, they're a little more hands-off. Like, the band isn't so directly involved in the day-to-day thing. So, I mean, they definitely sign off on everything, but, you know, I didn't really see them that much. So, as opposed to Prince, who didn't have managers, and he was very directly involved in everything, these guys I didn't talk to a whole lot. So it was really more like presenting my ideas to the manager, working those things out, and then maybe hearing from them once in a while. But I didn't have a lot of interaction with the band.
Right. But you did great work with them, and now with Microsoft, and you spoke about the pre-sale with tickets and with Prince and everything like that. What was the most stressful time for you and with a pre-sale like that? Because I couldn't handle anything like that. How did you, and what was the craziest time?
Yeah, that was rough. Well, you know, like these were early days, right? So this is like 2003, 2004, 2002. So internet, you know, bandwidth, you know, high broadband wasn't a thing, and so server traffic was always an issue. And you know, I think when we did the One Night Alone tour, that was tough, but we got through it. But that was smaller theaters. But then when he did the Musicology Tour, that was arenas, and we were working with AEG, so the volume was a lot higher. And so those first couple pre-sales, you know, we were really just white-knuckling it, like, oh, I just hope this site doesn't crash. And actually, we went through a situation with our hosting company where the site was crashing and it was causing problems. And I just had to pull the plug, and I just had to say, look, guys, it's not working. And I got a connection to another company, and we switched it in about a week for the next presale, and then it was pretty much smooth sailing after that. But I think that was the toughest part, like, just really wanting it to work, and it's not working, and I'm just saying, guys, I'm sorry, I got to go with somebody else. But it was tough.
Oh, yeah.
Every time we did those presales, like, oh, man, because like, fans, they'll slit your throat if you get in the way of their front row seat, right?
Wow, yeah, right. I mean, we love the Prince fan community, but it is definitely one of the most demanding, critical group out there. Yeah. So, you were definitely an integral part of Prince's development right on the internet, and you handled one of the most demanding creative geniuses around. So, kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and especially now, since he's passed, I'm really grateful that I had that time.
And you must have had a lot of people up at Microsoft asking what it was like to work with Prince, right? I'm sure you get the hit. Yeah, all the time.
Definitely. Well, yeah, it's interesting. Like as I was saying before he passed on, he wasn't necessarily on people's minds, but since he did pass on, a lot of people actually didn't even know that was part of my experience. And so I started posting about it and talking about it, and everyone's like, really? Oh, my goodness.
Right. Now, what about from what you saw in Prince in his last few years, as far as the Internet, did you see, anything change or how he was doing things?
Oh, yeah, definitely. He kind of was sort of offline for a little while, but then, this deal with Tidal, that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. Throwing his whole catalog in there and putting all these in, like a lot of the NPG Music Club music showed up on Tidal.
That's right.
That was really interesting. Mm-hmm. And they actually called me. Rock Nation called me, and they wanted to get artwork for those singles. So I was really happy that he connected me with them, so I could get them actual legit album art and not some crazy bootleg stuff which has shown up on other sites and magazines and things like that. But I thought that was a really interesting move on his part. I think in his mind, Tidal was like an artist-owned business because of Jay-Z. And I think he just really appreciated that business model. I think in a different world, that's something he would have liked to have started himself, some situation like that. So, his activity on Twitter was pretty interesting, too. He really was getting into using that to communicate with people. Mm-hmm. So it felt like he was really opening up.
And you're going to continue flashing back to all the great work that you did, and the other web designers work with Prince, PrinceOnlineMuseum.com. 10 years to the day, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
10 years to the day. And
for those that go way, way back, I'm sure they know the name Sam Nation, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So you get back to Chicago every once in a while?
Yeah, I do. My daughter lives there, so she's going to be 14 this year. So all my family's still there, so I get back a lot. And I'm still a Chicago guy. It's funny in Seattle, they treat everybody who's not from here as East Coast. So even though I'm from the Midwest, I'm still East Coast.
That's right. Yeah, living in the East Coast, right there on the lakes and everything like that, blowing in there.
That's right.
All the wind, and great music city as well. Sam, we got to thank you so much for coming by, and hopefully you come by. Hopefully in the near future.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, you're from the East Coast. You can come right to the studio, and we're not too far, right?
There you go. There you go.
Hey, we're going to go out with a project which you were involved in. I think this one came out during your time at Paisley Park, right? New Power Soul? Yep. And you worked on some of the artwork as well on some of the releases, right?
Yeah, after Steve Park moved on, I got to work on all the creative. So I worked on the One Night Alone box set, Musicology, 3121, Planet Earth, bunch of stuff.
All right, SamJennings.com, PrinceOnlineMuseum.com, and thanks so much, Sam.